Good evening, everybody. Good evening. How y'all doing tonight?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing awesome.
Doing good.
Awesome.
Doing good. Good evening.
Please, we're gonna give everybody else a few moments to tune in, and then we'll be getting started here shortly.
Good evening, everybody.
Welcome, everyone. We're gonna give it a few more minutes. I got a few more people coming. So we're gonna give it about 5 more minutes, maybe. Yeah, 5 more minutes at the max, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. Carmen
My
had.
apologies. I had the volume down on my headset, so I just realized that. So if you were talking to me, bro, I ain't hear a word you said.
Oh no, it's okay. I was just letting everybody know we're gonna give it about 5 more minutes because I'm waiting on some more people to join, and then we'll be getting started. Carmen has a great presentation set up for you guys tonight. So give us about 5 more minutes, and then we'll be getting started soon.
Take your time. We'll be waiting.
Cool beans.
But while we're waiting, did you see Bitcoin do its thing today?
Did it show out? Did it show out?
Yeah,
Man.
Hey, if you put the all trades down at 6, 7, 8, even the $10 trade, I got in at $10 and $11 on a couple of trades, and I still was up like $100. Y'all,
Yeah.
I'm coming. Yeah, all showed out too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it did. It did. Now I had sent I put a video in the chat today. It's the McIlvaney weekly report, and it's mentioning something about oil going back down and testing its negatives before the end of June. And I know Carmen's probably going to hip us to exactly what's going to happen there, but that was just a little bit of concern based off of what we're looking at now. So just giving you guys a little bit of a heads up about what might be around the corner.
Well, as for me on that oil thing, I had talked to Carmen before, and she had already said that it could dip back down and retest the lows. So I closed out most of all of my trades, even my Bitcoins. I left 3 Bitcoin trades running, and I left like 4 or 5 oil trades, because when it goes back down, I can, add some more lots then, but you don't want to lose the profits that you already have. Well, me, I don't want to lose the profits I already have.
Exactly. That's the reason why I was making mention of it.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna look at that article too, Mr. Parson, because I didn't get to look at that.
It's one of the McIlvaney weekly commentaries. They're a wealth management group, and they've been around for a while. And from what I can tell, there's a lot of solid information and research that goes into it, just to supplement what we already got going on. But that's where I was listening to. This particular report comes out every Wednesday morning about mid 2 a.m., 12 to 2 a.m. So when I find myself up around 4, that's the first thing I listen to on Wednesday mornings.
Cool beans. Well, I think we got everybody that's going to tune in to the meeting tonight. We have a few new people on. Everybody welcome, TJ, brother Reggie, Tamara. We got the good brother Leon Gatewood on with us tonight. So y'all give them a big welcome, man, to the team, so they can feel welcome, man. How y'all brothers doing?
Great, man. Thank you.
Good. Well,
Welcome, everyone.
welcome, everyone. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Cool beans. So without further ado, if our head fundamentalist is ready to do her thing, I will go ahead and pass the mic over to the one and only Carmen Tinley, aka Miss K Mentals. The floor is
It's
all
unicorn time.
Nubian Kiss.
Give me 1 second, you guys. I'm almost ready.
Unicorn. Unicorn.
I had a few other things I was trying to get pulled up for you guys because we had a lot of stuff come up today. So I'll talk while I'm waiting for my screen to come up. So essentially, what's going on in the world now is like unprecedented. Like there are a lot of things that are going on that we haven't experienced. Mr. Parsons mentioned oil going back down into the negatives. We have the Fed constantly feeding our debt, feeding our inflation bubble, kind of just feeding into a lot of things that's going on in the world right now. And overall, a lot of people are happy about stimulus money. I can't think of too many people who haven't been excited about getting a stimulus check. But at the same time, we have to realize that all of this stimulus is going to come back to bite us on the back end at some point in time. Usually, from what I've seen, from what I researched after we listened to Jerome Powell talk today, anytime a stimulus is given out, it takes anywhere from 2 years to about 5 years for the effects of that stimulus to start taking place, to start taking effect, to have a negative effect on the economy and what's going on in the world. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm pretty much just going to share everything that's on my screen because I'm going to be flipping back and forth. I'll do it that way. So while I'm going through, if you guys have any questions or anything, put them in the chat. And once I finish, I'll go back and answer all the questions that are in the chat so that I don't have to pull the Zoom screen up and cover up what I have on my screen for you guys to see. And
And
since I am
please, guys, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Carmen.
okay.
Please take notes because this information she's about to give you is worth writing down and worth being able to go back and read over it so you can gain a complete understanding of what it is that she's about to put down tonight. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. So yeah, just drop your questions in the chat. If it's something that I'm going over, like right in the middle of a slide or before I flip to another slide and you want understanding of it, especially definitely the first 5 to 6 slides. If you don't understand something on those, please stop me. Like, don't put it in the chat and then like wait for me to get to the very end because I want you to have a really good understanding of the foundation first and then, be able to build on top of that. So either unmute yourself, ask me, or if it's not really, really pressing, just put it in the chat and I'll answer it once I'm done. So I'm going to be talking about cryptocurrencies. I'm going to be talking about why they are important, why they're loved, and why they are hated. So with that being said, let's get started. And like I said, I'm clicking through these only because I'm going to be flipping back and forth between my PowerPoint and some internet pages that I have pulled up for you guys. So in order to understand cryptocurrencies, you must understand money. If you don't understand how money works, you're never going to understand the purpose and the point behind cryptocurrencies. So what is money? Money represents a value. So when you want to buy a product or use a service, you have to exchange for that. And whenever you're exchanging for that, it's a value. So you're either told what the value of a service is or you're told what the value of a product is, and you have to give that value. And this comes from the bartering system. So before there was actual money, there had to be something in place that actually carried a value. This actually had to be something that carried a value and actually held the value. It can't be something that loses its value over time. So with bartering was cool. If I grew a garden and I had 150 tomato plants. I have an abundance of tomatoes. And let's say you have a field of corn. I don't have corn. You don't have tomatoes. Let's exchange for that. We can exchange for that fairly in real time. But let's say I live on the West Coast, you live on the East Coast, and neither one of us have cars. Well, if I'm packing up tomatoes, those tomatoes have a shelf life. So they're not going to be as valuable, and your corn is not going to be as valuable. So the bartering system works, but over a distance of travel, it doesn't work very well. So something had to be found that actually held its value. So in history, things that were used for money were things like wheat, because you could kind of dry out wheat. It can kind of sit and be stored for a while. Salt, shells, and gold. So for money to have a value, people must trust that the value of that item is going to hold up and be the same in the future so that it can be redeemed for. So that leads us to the gold standard. So our US dollar was once backed by gold. Gold has a value, and gold doesn't degrade, it doesn't perish. It's not like corn, it's not like a tomato, fish, a cow. It holds its value. And our currency was linked to gold, or to this metal. And then other countries, because we had a stable currency due to our currency being linked to gold, then became linked to our currency. So once the United States linked the US dollar to gold, Europe linked the euro to our currency, Great Britain linked their pound to our dollar, and so it became a spider web of countries that pegged their currency to ours. And essentially, through our currency, their currency was pegged to gold. And so, when with the gold standard, the price of gold was actually fixed. So the government fixed the price of gold, because if the price of gold wasn't fixed, then that means that your dollar would fluctuate a lot. The government said, we're going to fix gold, and then you can assess what the value of the dollar is based on that. And then gold, anytime it was bought and sold, was bought and sold at that price. So if the price was set at $1,000 per ounce, that meant that the dollar was worth 1,000 of an ounce of gold, because $1 out of 1,000 is how that fraction comes up. So you could easily assess what the dollar's value was going to be based off of that. So gold standard continued. It became hard to carry bars of gold. And this is even before paper money. When gold was used as an actual currency itself, like you could trade for actual pieces of gold. It became hard to carry. It was heavy. It was also hard to split bars. You actually had to go to someone who could split your gold bars, split coins, whatever you had, to give you a partial amount. And then you had to weigh the partial amount and make sure that it was right and that it wasn't contaminated. So that's how we came up with paper money. And so,
Did you check your volume? You're coming through a little bit low on my end.
okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Barely. Let me figure out what's going on my end.
All right. I'll catch Mr. Parsons up. I'm gonna go ahead and continue for you guys. So paper money was created out of this need to have something lighter to not have these heavy bars that you had to carry around. And actually, whenever we got ready to come off of the gold standard, the government required everyone that had gold, whether it was gold bars or whether it was gold coins, gold nuggets, the government required that people actually give up their gold. You could actually be put in federal prison if you did not give up your gold to the government so that they could put all of this gold together. But yeah, that's kind of the history of our money. Essentially, what would happen was if you took your dollar or if you took your gold to the bank, you would actually be able to exchange that gold for paper money, and they would give you pretty much like certificates, receipts for whatever you gave to them. And so this is how we're coming up with this bartering. We're going from bartering to having a metal that's fixed. It doesn't change in price. It doesn't change in value, to having paper money. So it's just been going from something that's stable to something that's stable and also light. So more about paper money. So it's practical, it's handy, it's convenient. You can fold it up, you can put it in your pocket, put it in your shoe. We moved away from the gold standard, which backed our money. So essentially what the government said was that they were going to be liable for our money. They were going to be liable for its value, for its stability. And so now we trade paper money. It's backed by nothing but the promise of the government. And it works because we trust the government. And so what that system is called is fiat. It's a fiat currency system. So fiat means by decree in Latin. And so the dollar's value is what it is because the government orders it to be. So if you pulled a $1 bill, 5, 10, 20, 50, a $100 bill out of your pocket and laid it down, it only has those values, and that's only money because the government said that it's money. And so our money is known as legal tender, and it has to be accepted as payment because our government has said that it has to be accepted. So our money has value only because of legal status. So with a fiat currency system and with a government-based money, there's always drawbacks to that. It's centralized, government controls it, they issue it. But then another drawback to it, which I kind of alluded to earlier, is that it's unlimited. So our central bank can print money at will, and they can print as much of it as they need to. So a very recent and a very clear example of this is the stimulus money that people have gotten or will be receiving in the mail. The government printed that money to give out to the people. There was nothing out there that said, oh, this is leveraged by money this is leveraged by gold that's held somewhere, or this is leveraged by the value of something that we have as an asset as a country. No, they just said, we need this amount of money, give it to us. And that's literally what happened. Over the course of all of the CARES Act, over the course of all the stimulus that has happened this year alone, it's been a little over $6 trillion. 6 TRILLION. 6 trillion with the T dollars. That's a lot of money. And we haven't even gotten to halfway through the year yet. We barely made it out of the first quarter of the year. So yeah, that tells you one of the drawbacks to this currency, because the more money that you print, the value of that dollar decreases. If it works on supply and demand. So if you think about it, the demand for the dollar is high. but the supply for the dollar wanes up and down. And so essentially what happens is that when we oversupply and we over print money and put it into the economy, that drops the value. The supply has gone way up when there's not really a high demand for it. So right now, people are not working, people aren't traveling, people aren't buying things like they normally would. And I have all of the numbers from all the government agencies that provide these numbers. There are also independent agencies that we'll look at also that provide these numbers when I do the news. But there are verified sources that people aren't spending money like they used to. People aren't buying things. People aren't working. We know these things. The states are on lockdown. So we just put out all of this stimulus money, a little over $2 trillion just for that. And people are using it to pay their bills, which is nice. That's awesome. But at the end of the day, how is that going to come back to bite us? How is that going to come back to haunt us when all of this is over, when all of this is said and done? Because we're ripping the rug out from under our dollar every time money gets printed. If I took $1 out of my pocket right now, folded it in half, and ripped it in half, that's pretty much essentially what the value of my dollar is based on printing that has been done so far this year.
Carmen,
Yes, what's up?
if I might add just a little footnote.
Okay.
I mean, what you're saying is absolutely spot on. That money, you'll hear Republicans say, well, you're taking money away from our grandchildren and our grandchildren's grandchildren. And in a sense, they're right. It is a moral hazard in regards to the fact that you're taking their spending power and their spending capability away from what you're creating today. You're drawing forward what they'll be paying back later on down the line. So there is a cost to this inflation that she's speaking of, and it is backed by something at this point. It is backed by government and the threat and duress that government can bring to compel if government so chooses to do so. That's the reason why we have that cozy relationship with Saudi Arabia and the Arab League in regards to the exchange for money for oil, which, by the way, is really in question as of right now because of oil dropping to negative pricing. But I just wanted to add that little footnote in. Please continue. This is excellent.
No, I actually appreciate that because that brings me to a point when it comes to drawbacks of fiat currency. It's not one that I had on here, but since you mentioned it, I am going to talk about it and then add it to this slide afterwards. Is that with fiat currencies, the more we print money, the more the value drops. And at this point, there is no regard for a debt ceiling. Like that's out the window. Like everyone used to care about how much debt we were in as a country. No one right now is even thinking about, oh, the United States, we're in so much debt. We shouldn't be doing this. No. It's going to come back. Oh, this conversation about the debt ceiling is going to happen again. But not right now. The debt ceiling
forced on us.
Exactly. It's going to be a forced conversation, and it's also going to be a conversation that the millennials and the generation under the millennials, whichever generation that is after me, whatever, like my generation, I know that I'm working right now to provide money for my mother and my father's retirement, like their age group. They're the last ones that are going to be able to draw from the system. That system is going to be null and void by the time I'm even able to draw from it. That's why, little side note, what we're doing as a group is so important. Trading Forex, learning how to invest, learning how to do real estate, learning how to trade and buy and invest in cryptocurrencies. Because you need to set up a system that's going to be there for you. You have to do it yourself. At this point, people my age aren't even putting money into retirement because it's like, well, it's not going to be there for me. I mean, personal retirement accounts, yes, but it's like, why wait when I know what I can do with my money? I'm not going to depend on a system for my money. Fiat currency has gotten us to the point where you have, it's a Ponzi. If you think about what a Ponzi scheme is, the people who got in first can draw first, and everybody else is helping to pay for everybody before them. That's what we're in right now. I really hated to even say it, but the thought came to my mind. It just came out so fast. Sorry. But yeah, the system is like a Ponzi scheme. There's a gentleman still alive today who helped to create the 401k system. And he says that the 401k system needs to be restructured because for what we're doing today, it's archaic. It doesn't work. So if you have the creator of the system telling us that it's archaic and that it doesn't work, we need to do something about that. Because the way we're printing money right now, nobody's going to have anything later. All right, I'm done with that. So, digital money. If you have to think about what digital money is, just think of it like this. If you need electricity to make a transaction, it's digital. If you got to have a cell phone, if you need the internet, if you need power, if you need any like that stuff to make the transaction work, it's digital. And if the internet goes down, you're in trouble. There was a power outage. Think about when there are storms. I'll just put it that way. When there are storms and the power goes out, you can't go to the store and say, I want to swipe my debit card. You're trying to drive a couple of towns over to even be able to use your own money. So what happens with digital money is that the banks keep a ledger. So you can't walk into the State Employees Credit Union or Wells Fargo or Bank of America or any bank and say, I want to see your ledger. They're going to look at you like you are crazy and say, no, get out. Why are you even asking me that question? Banks keep track of who has money in their bank, how much they have, and at this point, what they're spending it on. That's what your statements are about. So this is to try to keep money centralized, to try to keep a hold on how people are actually spending their money. So up until this point in time, it had been really, really hard to try to figure out how to create an alternative currency. It's hard for banks to share ledgers. The only way you can actually share your ledger is, there's only two ways. One is a federal, like a subpoena to go to court. And then the other way is you actually getting your own ledger, or just happening to come upon someone's ledger, whether it be someone in your house getting it in the mail wrong or whatever the case may be. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about drawbacks of a central bank because I'm going to talk after this presentation, go over the economic news for today, everything that happened, and economic news for the week. And we're going to be talking about the central bank because Jerome Powell spoke today. And so our central bank, if you don't know, here in the United States is the Federal Reserve. So I refer to them as the Feds. When you hear about them on the news, read about them in a newspaper, magazine, you'll either hear them called the Feds, the Federal Reserve, or they'll refer to the group of people by the chairperson, which is Jerome Powell. They help set monetary policy in the United States. And they have two mandates I'll go over those later, but essentially to have stable employment and to kind of wrangle currency and keep it under control, to kind of condense that other part down. But with having a group of people in charge of our monetary policy here in the United States comes a lot of responsibility and comes a lot of manipulation, corruption, control issues, and stuff like that. One thing I want to point out about our central bank here in the United States before I go any further is that our Federal Reserve, they're not a government entity. They're called the Federal Reserve, but they're a private group of people. They're an independent group of people. Because they are federal level employees, that kind of takes their salary and, you know, their responsibilities in a different direction, but they're not a federal entity. So when we talk about corruption, when we talk about power, when we talk about voting, when we talk about really making sure that your voice is heard, a lot of times we put our focus in the wrong places. The people who we vote for, that nominate the people who go into these positions, is who we should really be paying attention to. Because whoever sits on our Federal Reserve, which is a group, is 12 people. You have all the presidents of the Federal Reserve banks across the United States, Atlanta, St. Louis, New York, San Diego, or San Francisco. And then you have Jerome Powell, you have the chairperson. And so this group of people vote. I'm going to show you the meeting notes from their meeting today and then show you how you can look at them. You can go back and look in the past and see how all of these people have voted. See how all of these people have used their power to be able to manipulate the money supply, if you want to put it like that. But essentially, banks have the power over the money supply. They have the power to tell banks what interest rates are going to be. They have the power to control the money supply. That's what they're doing now. They're controlling the money supply. And when there's a bank mandate to create money and assess its value, they basically control its flow and they control its value. So when the Federal Reserve changes interest rates, that's controlling the flow of money, because when you change interest rates, you're either trying to entice people to spend their money, or you're trying to discourage people from buying their money, from spending their money. So,
Excuse me.
yes.
Did you? Could you also touch on the rehypothecation aspect of it? That, I think what people don't understand is that $6 trillion isn't just $6 trillion they just created. That's $6 trillion times 10, or times 50, or times 100, depending on the amount of leverage they are able to use to be able to take care of their derivatives market that you'll hear about, all these alphabet loan distribution aspects, or tranches, what have you. Those are the things that are the real danger that people don't even realize exists. 6 trillion, that's just the tip of the iceberg that you see. What's under the water is the rehypothecation and all of those derivatives that they're going to actually be feeding all of this money to. I think we got what, $350 billion out of that $2 trillion stimulus package.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. A lot of, so when it comes down to a stimulus, I'm going to touch on this really quick because this feeds into the power aspect of this. We get excited as people to hear the word stimulus because we feel like we're getting money. A lot of people heard, oh, we're getting a $1,200 check. Oh, I'm going to get money for my kids too. Oh, my spouse is going to get money. Oh, okay, awesome. No, that is not awesome. In the short term for a family, it might seem like it's a great idea because you're looking at the here and now, you're looking at your bills, you're looking at what has to be done for your family right now. But when people heard $2.2 trillion, they were like, yes, we're all getting this money. But all of that money was not given out to the people. A lot of that money went to corporations, went to businesses, went to programs, programs set up to help corporations, to kind of give them a cushion. Then it also went to states. So there were some states, another chunk, I'll put it like this, another chunk of that money was put aside to help states cushion their unemployment system. So the money that I'm talking about does not include that $600 that a lot of states are giving out extra. It doesn't include that. That's in that amount that you heard Mr. Parsons talk about. Like, there has to be something, because these things, stimulus packages don't just fall out of the air. Congress votes on them. So the House and the Senate vote on these things. Whenever they get voted on, everybody has to have their little say in it. The Democrats aren't going to be happy unless they get this. The Republicans aren't going to be happy unless they get that. And that's why you hear them say, oh, the bill didn't pass. It failed on the vote. And you're sitting back thinking, well, I need my money. How did it fail? Because power. When you are voting for these people to be mayor, governor, just remember that they have the power to dictate your money. In a situation like this, I bet there are some people in some states who are wishing that they did not vote the way that they did. This is going to make people really realize the power. Like, stimulus money sounds good, but stimulus money is also a manipulation, and it's a power trip. It's a power trip because you think that you're getting the full benefit of that money amount that they're calling out, but you're not. You also think that you're getting the full backing of whoever you voted for that may have represented your state, your city, or whatever, your state's liaison to the Pentagon, to the White House. You may have thought that, oh, that person's working on my behalf. They're working on their behalf. They're working on the best interest of the government. It's never for the best interest of the people. The system's not set up that way. I'm not going to talk about taxes tonight, but the tax system is not set up for the individual. It's power. Everything is set up for power. What we have going on right now with this stimulus, and this is the last thing I'm going to say about it. If the people could put on glasses and see into the future and see what's going to happen to their kids' money and their kids' livelihoods, a lot of people would have said, is there another way we can tackle this issue? A lot of people would have been questioning, is this the only way to do this? Because my child's future. It's a really heavy thing when you have power. Power causes banks. Go ahead.
Take them back down a trip down memory lane. When George Bush was in there, George Bush gave out a $600 stimulus check, and at that point in time, car prices brand new were half of what they are now. So you see it, you just don't realize what you're seeing yet, because it's the forest for the trees. If you got the trees right in front of you, you can't really look around and see that you're in the midst of a forest. But you just got $600 now. And that was 2008. Here we are, 2020. So what? 12 years later, They had to double the money 12 years later in order to pacify you. Okay, and this isn't over. And again, they've used more money in the last 3 months than they basically used the entire time they were stimulating the economy from 2008 to 2012. That's going to come back hard.
Yeah. That's going to come back and it's going to hurt. Actually, I'm actually going to start talking about 2008 and the crisis a little bit now. So Wells Fargo created 1.4 million, fake accounts to inflate their bank's revenue stream. So they faked these accounts. They inflated their numbers for stockholders. And then, of course, when they report their earnings, their stock price, their share price goes up. Shareholders take great pride in that. You know, they're making money off of this, but then it comes out, oh, it was fake. And then, you know, you're trying to get out of it. But speaking of Wells Fargo and speaking of, you know, revenue streams, one of the other drawbacks to a central bank is mismanagement. So money can be printed to save other banks. Okay, so this happened during the 2008 crisis. I have a whole PowerPoint on the 2008 crisis, so I'm going to really try to keep this part short. Essentially, what led us to 2008 was a stimulus that happened prior. It was a dropping of interest rates. It was a stimulating of the economy that needed to happen during Bill Clinton's era. So Bill Clinton, and even before Bill Clinton, Alan Greenspan, let me put it this way. Alan Greenspan, when he was the chair of the Federal Reserve, felt that it was a good idea to manipulate, change, drop interest rates. But then anytime you're doing this, other government entities, agencies, personnel feel like we need something out of this also. So what happened was that the banking system, Congress kind of allowed a rewriting of the rules for banks. Redlining kind of appeared in different ways. The way loans for homes were given out happened. So 2008 started from a stimulus. The repercussions of 2008 were seen first in 2011. We got a taste of now in 2011. Everybody just kind of wrote off 2011 as a blip. 2016 happened and people were like, oh, it's just a slight pullback in the market. We're in a bull market. You know, no bears to be found. We're good. The market's going to keep roaring. We got really 2 warnings after 2008 of what's coming, what's going on now. 2011, 2016, and then now. Mismanagement of money happened in 2008 in a lot of ways. So those bailouts that we kept hearing about, people were like, we need the money. Give the money to the people. We're going to spend the money. But money, it was a lot more than what was reported. It was more like a few $1 trillion, but the people heard the number a little bit under $1 trillion. About $850 billion was given out to the banks in late 2008, early 2009 to try to help stimulate the economy, to get people to start taking out credit, to give them a cushion, essentially, to help people to get back into the marketplace, get the economies going. They gave this money out. There were conditions. The conditions just weren't strong enough for a lot of banks because they were told, it wasn't written, they were told not to use the money for bonuses, but to use it as lines of credit so that the people and other small businesses, other corporations can actually come and get money to run their operations. CEOs, after the money was given out in 2008, received the largest bonuses and continue to since that time in history. That was a mismanagement of money. So when we talk about mismanagement, we have to start at home. Like our government, I have an example on here about Venezuela, but our government has mismanaged money plenty of times. To just talk a little bit about Venezuela, since it's on the slide, they printed too much money. They printed so much money that their currency actually collapsed. Their currency is pretty much worthless. Argentina also did the same thing, but the thing that hurt Argentina was that, or is that, they actually had taken out a debt with the German government. So when Argentina had issues, or is still having issues with their currency, not only is it affecting them, but it's affecting the German government, because Germany, yeah, they're in the hole now, a few $billion. Doesn't seem like a lot, but you have to understand like the size of their economy. That kind of hurt them, especially since they were already tinkering on the edge of being a bankrupt country. Anyway, control. We've talked about this a little bit. You know, we give the government control over the status of our currency. They decide to freeze our accounts. They decide to give us access. They decide, they control the status of our money. It's legal tender. Because we're on a fiat system now, it's not backed by anything. The government can print it at free will. They have control over its status, over what it is. So if the government says, let's just say, we wake up in the morning and Trump's on TV and he says, you know what? The dollar is no longer legal tender over $20 bill. Anything over a $20 bill is no longer US money. If you have it, it's worth nothing. It's just a piece of paper. A lot of people would be hurt because a lot of people that store money in their safes, their mattresses, and whatever the case may be, hold it in high dollar quantities or the high value currency bills. If you think that sounds absurd, well, it happened in India. The Indian government literally gave a press conference one morning. Like the people had no warning that this was going to happen. They didn't have the chance to go to the bank to get smaller bills. They had no time to do anything. Government that morning says, we're changing the legal status of our currency for notes over 500. They're no longer legal tender. And if you have them, they're worthless. So people were in line at the bank trying to say, I have this money. I need this money to run my business. I need this money to pay my bills. I need this money to buy food, supplies, clothes. And the banks were like, no. There are videos. If you go to YouTube and you look up Indian news, you will actually be able to see videos of people at the bank handing their money to the tellers and the tellers taking the money and ripping it up, giving the people back shreds of paper. It was no more. Like if the government decides that the money means nothing, it means nothing. We're on a whim with our money right now with the government. If they say paper money means nothing, what are we going to do? So yeah, drawbacks: control, corruption, mismanagement. All right. So digital currencies. All right. So let's see. I first heard about digital currency when I was in college. I was getting ready to graduate, heard about Bitcoin from one of my friends, one of my professors. I was just like, oh, okay, sounds cool. Sounds revolutionary, but, you know, like I didn't know too much about it. But Bitcoin came into existence in October 2008, and there was a document published by someone using a pseudonym, Satoshi Nakamoto. And it talks about creating a currency that deviates and moves away from a centralized currency and creating one that's decentralized and has a transparent ledger. So we don't know who the creator of Bitcoin is, because when they wrote this paper, they used a fake name. There have been people who have stepped up and said that they are this person, but it's only because cryptocurrencies are becoming a little bit more acceptable. They have already said, they being the federal government, that whoever this person is, if they actually come out and they can prove and verify that they know who this person is beyond a shadow of a doubt, they're going to federal prison. Everyone who had anything to do with Bitcoin in its initial beginning stages and kind of helped it really get off the ground, if you look them up, they did prison time. There's 3 guys that are still in prison today. I think that they get out next year, next fall. So yeah, if they find out who this person is, they're going to prison, and I highly doubt that they're going to get out anytime soon. So we're going to talk about a few problems with the digital system now that will kind of help us to lead in and talk about cryptocurrencies and why cryptos are so important. So they charge fees. There are a lot of fees that go into having a digital system because you need a third party in the middle. Having a cryptocurrency takes that away. And you have to depend on a digital system to keep your information safe. So we hear about Visa and we hear about these companies that act as the third party or act as that person or business or banking system to help transact for us or on our behalf, being hacked, having issues with security, keeping our information safe. We essentially depend on them to do that. So when you pull out your debit card, how do you know who this party is? You pull out your debit card, you pull out your credit card, look at the bottom. Does it say Visa? Does it say MasterCard? Does it say American Express? Like that's who's helping to facilitate transactions between you and a merchant through the credit union where your money's being held. So it doesn't just go debit card, you know, take the money from the credit union. Like it has to be processed somehow. So back to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is digital. It has a transparent ledger. So there's literally places you can go to, or a place you can go to online and you can see real-time transactions of Bitcoin. You don't know who it is. You only see a Bitcoin address and you can see all the transactions. So remember earlier I said if you were to walk into your bank and ask them for their ledger, they would look at you like you were crazy and say no, probably tell you to get out or call security. With Bitcoin and with cryptocurrencies, you can see the ledger. You don't, like I said, you don't know who it is unless you know a person's Bitcoin address. And if you do, you have great memory. But it's transparent. You can see everything that's going on. So like I said, you can't find out who's behind the transactions, but it's transparent. You can see these transactions taking place. It's not centralized. By being decentralized, what that means is that there's no central place, no central bank for it. So Bitcoin doesn't have a central bank. Every computer has a ledger or can have a ledger for Bitcoin. So if you mine Bitcoin, you actively have the ledger for Bitcoin on your computer. So it can't be falsified. So if there are as an example, 10,000 people on the planet that are mining Bitcoin or that are participating in the Bitcoin system. 10,000 people have the exact same ledger. And so you know when something's off. The system knows when something's off. So for those of you on the call who are trading, and when we talk about funding our accounts with Bitcoin, that the reason why there's a period of time where you have to wait is because when you, let's say if you use Cash App, if you load your account with money on Cash App, or if you flat out buy Bitcoin to Cash App on your phone, cool, you have the Bitcoin on your phone, you are a part of the ledger. But let's say you wanted to transfer that Bitcoin to your trading account. Well, you're going from one Bitcoin account or address to another Bitcoin address. The system has to verify your transaction on every ledger to make sure that, and to make sure the system knows that it is a valid transaction and that it doesn't get kicked out. So whenever you're sitting there and you're like, man, it's been 30 minutes, my money's still not in my trading account, it's being verified. So if you go to your trading account and you see, oh, it's on step 2, or it's being verified on step 2, it's 3 steps. It has to be verified on the blockchain where you purchased it or where it's coming from. It has to be verified on the overall blockchain, and then verified on the blockchain for the address that it's going to. It has to be verified 3 times. So you guys ever wondered why it was taking so long for your money to be moved from one address to another? That's why. That brings up the point of taking the system down. If you wanted to take down the system of Bank of America or any bank, I shouldn't call out bank names, but if you want to take down a bank system, the only thing you'd have to do is take down a few computers and servers. Really, the main servers, what you'd have to take down the whole bank. Hackers know this. People who are actively trying to destroy countries, not just ours, but other countries, know this. You have to get to that one server, that one computer. With a cryptocurrency, there are thousands of computers that hold the ledger, so you can't take down every last computer. That you could try, but it's going to be very, very hard to take down every last computer that has this ledger on it. So before I do that, I'm going to show you guys. Okay, so let me go back. So when I was talking about Satoshi Nakamoto, and I was talking about the paper that he wrote, this is the paper. So if you go to bitcoin.org, you can find this paper. It's called a white paper. So I talk about this a little bit later, but anytime a cryptocurrency is being created, they have to come up with a white paper. It talks about how transactions are going to happen, how transactions are verified, timestamps, everything. So that's where you can find the white paper. But I really wanted to show you guys these transactions. So if you go to www.blockchain.com, you'll actually be able to see real-time transactions happening on the ledger. So if you click, once you come in on transactions, so right now I'm looking at just Bitcoin and the Bitcoin transactions. It does take a little bit of time for these to come up, but this is the what's called a hash is the address. That's the this is the Bitcoin address that you're looking at. They're all time stamped. This is the amount of Bitcoin that's being moved, and it tells you how much that is in US dollars. So I don't have it set anymore to automatically update because on Zoom calls, it makes the Zoom call lag. But if you guys were to do this on your computer right now, it would be moving, actively scrolling through. You would actually be able to see, like, all these transactions would be moving. So this is how the ledger, this is the ledger that I was talking about, and it's transparent because you can just go to this website and you see all of the transactions that are happening. You don't know who it is. You can say, oh, someone transacted a little over $48,000 2 minutes ago. Okay. Someone transacted a little over 37 Bitcoin. So that's $337,012.94. Somebody had that much Bitcoin in their wallet to transact. And so what you'll notice is that hedge funds, banks, small companies that are trying to get into the financial sector and bought a lot of Bitcoin early, when they transact, there's actually a Twitter hash. It's something similar to like the whales, but they actually monitor huge transactions of Bitcoin and will tweet about it so that people can go look at the ledger. And like I said, you don't know who it is. When they write about it, sometimes the company or the group may come out and say, yeah, we did it. We were moving money to buy gold or whatever the case may be. But I wanted to show you guys that so you guys could see like what the ledger actually looked like. So why is all of this so important? Why are cryptocurrencies important? So cryptocurrencies are important because they're an alternative. It goes against the norm. It goes against the grain. No government or bank can control it. So when you think about Bitcoin in terms of the news, once there was only like one place where you could go get the news, and people solely depended upon that place, that newspaper, whatever the case may be. Now, thanks to the internet, you have countless sources of news items. Bitcoin is the internet of money. You have complete control over it. The government can't confiscate your money. It's cheaper than current methods of currency transfer. So by that, I mean, sorry, just trying to get that off my screen. So those fees that I was talking about, whenever you're moving money using Cash App, Cash App charges a fee because they consider themselves to be your bank. Some people hold their money in Cash App. Some people actually get their tax returns, their stimulus money, their direct deposits from work into Cash App, because if you look at Cash App now, Cash App actually gives people an account number and they have a routing number. So Cash App is acting like a bank right now, or they're a bank. I shouldn't say acting like they're a bank. So when you transfer Bitcoin from cash to Bitcoin, from one Bitcoin wallet to another, they assess a small fee. If you're going Bitcoin to Bitcoin, if I move it from my wallet to yours, there's no fee. No one's going to be like, oh, I need to get a little piece of that. No, I'm just giving you money. Well, another really good thing, when we talk about disadvantaged, the underbanked population, cryptocurrencies are great because you don't have to have a bank account. You have to have an initial way of getting the Bitcoin, whether that is transferring it from a cash or a currency that you currently have into the cryptocurrency, or someone giving it to you, whatever the case may be. But you don't have to have a bank account. You don't actually have to have access to a physical bank. All you need is a phone and the internet. And now there are Bitcoin debit cards and there are Bitcoin ATMs. So if a person says, well, I got $1,000, but I need a way to try to get it into Bitcoin, no problem. All you need is a phone and the internet. And how you would do it is you'd literally go online, you'd set up an account with a company that will give you a Bitcoin address. You go to the Bitcoin ATM, you put in that $1,000, you scan your phone so that your Bitcoin address shows up, and it sends the money to your address, to your phone. And you can stand right there and watch it happen. You can send it to someone else via these Bitcoin ATMs. The debit card is not tied to your name, it's tied to your Bitcoin address. So it's like having a debit card for your bank account, but your is attached to your Bitcoin address and they don't know your name. So, that makes it pretty cool. And I saw in the chat where was mentioned that they can't tax it. So yeah, when it comes down to our money, it can't be taxed. So one of the things, I didn't add it to this presentation, but I'll talk about it now, is the privacy aspect of it. So there's a couple of things, and there's a clear distinction between cash, digital methods of transacting money, and cryptocurrency. There's a big difference between them. So with cash, if I had $1 million in cash, I can do whatever I want to with that cash and no one would know. It's not traceable. They can't trace what I'm doing with my $100 bills or with my 20s or my ones. They can't do it. So the same argument that gets made for cryptocurrencies and why people don't like cryptocurrency is the need to know what people are doing with their money, because they say, well, people are using cryptocurrencies on the black market and to buy drugs and for trafficking and all this stuff. Well, how has that stuff been facilitated for all these years? We didn't have cryptocurrencies up until now. It was with cash. So cash can do the exact same thing, and cryptocurrency can do the exact same thing for us that cash is doing. It's only in a digital form. So when we talk about those digital methods of transacting money, that's the debit cards, that's Zelle, Square, Cash App. Your moves, your use of your money is able to be tracked. So if you use your debit card, your credit card, when you get those statements and you see how and where you spent your money, they can see the same thing. They meaning whoever feels like they want access to your financial records, be it the government, the bank, whoever. So they're able to follow you. They're able to track you. When you go into, and let's talk about tracking for a second, because this element of it is important. If you were to use your debit card in Walmart, Target, Food Lion, Harris Teeter, wherever you shop, you use your debit card, you use your credit card, that store has a record of how you spent your money, because you get a paper evidence of it. You get a receipt. They're showing you what you bought, how much you paid for it. So that's your evidence right there that they're tracking what you're spending, because they have to track what items leave their store and you used your card. And a lot of people think, well, when I go into the store and I type in my phone number or my member number, I scan my little bit card, my little pass with the barcode on it. That's how I get all of my savings. No, they know because of your card that you use. I have gone to the store and used my debit card, forgot to type in my number, and I still get those little printouts. How? There's a company, it's a third-party company called Nielsen. The Nielsen Group is like the overseer of how people move around the planet. If people are worried about, people are worried about, like these other little places getting hacked. If Nielsen got hacked, a lot of people would be in trouble because your spending habits, where you use your debit card, where you used your bank account is tracked. Stores pay them. This is how they are able to advertise to you through Nielsen. Anytime you're looking at an advertisement, if you ever question or want to know where it comes from, look in the bottom left hand or the bottom right hand corner, and it will tell you a name of a group. The name of that group could be anything. But if you look up that group, the parent company of that group or the parent company of that company's parent company is Nielsen. They're like the world's advertising group. Like they know everything about everybody. So with all that being said, anywhere where you've used your debit card, anywhere where you receive advertisements, like you're being tracked. So to bring that back, let's say you used your card at a store, you got your receipt, you went home, you're sitting there, you see an ad on TV for an item, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go to Amazon and buy that item. You type your debit card number into Amazon, you purchase your item, you're like, yay, I'll get my item tomorrow before 12 noon. Then you keep scrolling, you go to a few other pages, and then you start getting ads. And you're like, oh, I just bought that yesterday at the store. Or I just bought that at the store earlier, whenever. That's because that same card that you used at the store, you now have typed into a site that is recording your debit card number, that is sending information to Nielsen, who is able to crank out advertisements to you. It doesn't just have to be cookies held on a computer. It doesn't just have to be things that you've looked at. It's how you used your card also. And then one other thing, and then I'll move on, is if you've used your debit card, which most people have for your Netflix subscription. Have you ever, or if, let's say, I'll put it like this. If you use your debit card for your Netflix subscription and you've watched a bunch of movies, Netflix is able to give you a preference or give you a list of things they think you might like. But then if you type in that debit card number, let's say on Fandango, or a website to get movie tickets, or on Amazon, or into somewhere that is relatively in the, in the movie sector, entertainment industry, they will give you suggestions on what they think you might like based on your Netflix watching, because Nielsen is able to get information from Netflix, which is in their terms and agreement, to help facilitate their advertisement. That's how they can justify giving out your preferences, is because they put it in the terms, but they're not actually linking it to your name. They're linking it to an account number, which is linked to a debit or credit card number. So digital methods of transacting money are trackable. Cash and cryptocurrencies, you're not able to track people. Governments do not like cryptocurrencies because they're not able to see what you're purchasing. They can't follow you around. They can't say, oh, they bought this, they bought that. Nielsen can't track you. They don't have a demographic for you. Only thing they know you by is your Bitcoin address, if they even know that. And it's like, gosh, okay, we have no information. So the argument against Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies that you'll hear is that, oh, illicit activities, illegal activities are happening. And we don't know who these people are. Well, you didn't know who they were with cash either. For decades, cartels have been trafficking drugs and money across the border, and you don't know who moved the money. You don't know them by name. Oh, you know it was duffel bags of money. Now it's just digital. It's a digital form of what we've always had. So I put on here a couple of countries who are over 60% cashless. They still have some cash, but it is a pain for the people to actually use cash in these countries. So Germany, I'm gonna come back to Germany. So Denmark, Sweden, and China. Right now, if you try to go to China and use paper money, they would laugh at you. China is 90% cashless. The only places where they really use cash are in the villages, like on the northern side of China. Anywhere else in China where you're trying to make a transaction, you use your phone. They have 2 apps that they use in China, and you swipe one or the other. The fees are the same. You just swipe it or you scan it, and that's it. In Sweden right now, in Sweden and in Denmark actually, there are people who are shop owners who have customers that still come in and use cash. I can speak for Sweden in particular on this particular part. The fee to take cash into a bank and deposit it is higher than credit card fees. So those fees that each store incurs every time someone uses a debit or credit card, that's why some stores say you have to have a transaction over a certain amount of money, because they get charged the fee. Credit card and debit card fees are actually lower than the cost to deposit money. So if you have cash and you're trying to take it to the bank to deposit it, it's your own money, you're holding it, you're trying to deposit your money. They are going to charge you double-digit percentages just to deposit it. So if you take $1,000 into the bank, your balance might only be $850 because they decided to take 15%. Because you deposited cash, and it's a hassle for them because now they have to take your cash and process it and bundle it and send it off. It's a hassle for them for you to use money, for you to use cash. They want you to use digital currencies in these countries that I'm showing you. And in Germany, they actually have, in some of the northern and southern parts of Germany, they don't have banks anymore. So what happens is they have food truck style banks, which is a mobile bank. It looks like a food truck. They drive around and they park, and people who need banking services drive to that location where the truck is and do their banking transactions. They deposit money. If for some reason they have to get money, they get money. But if you need to receive money, get their paper currency, most of those banks only carry up to maybe $1,000 or so. So they don't carry a lot. So that's going to be on a first come, first serve basis. So types of cryptocurrencies, I'm almost done. There's Bitcoin, there's Ethereum, there's Litecoin, Ripple, Acoin. So Acon is has written a white paper for his own currency, and is really trying to do a lot to develop Africa, you know, having his own city, having his own coin, because he was like, why not? The time is now for us to have our own money. That's what his response was when someone asked him, why are you doing this? Those first 4 cryptocurrencies, you have to have like mining software and stuff to mine them. But Picoin and Electroneum are 2 cryptocurrencies that you can download the app for right now. And you can start mining these cryptocurrencies from your phone. They do not take up a lot of battery power. They don't take up a lot of energy. They run in the background, but on very low power. And then actually, let's say, for instance, you were to turn your phone off for some reason, it's still going to mine for you. Picoin, you have to log into the app every day for it to mine for you. Electroneum mines for you for a whole week before you have to log back in. Electroneum, you can actually convert over to other currencies and put in a bank. Picoin is in the process of doing all of that. You can actually transact Picoin similar to what Bitcoin was when it first started. But if you want to know how to get involved in trading cryptos, if you're really interested, you want to know how to do it, where can I go? Cash App is an option. If you use Cash App, you will only be able to buy Bitcoin. However, if you're interested in some of the other cryptocurrencies, because if you want a whole coin, Bitcoin at this present moment is $8,875.58. Had you bought it last week around this time, it was about 7,000 something. So if you want a whole coin, you know, that's how much money it's going to be for Bitcoin. But Ethereum, Litecoin, they're a lot cheaper. If you're interested in buying whole coins and either holding them or transacting them, you know, those are options for you. So Coinbase, I actually have a crypto portfolio similar to what I have with my stocks. I have a lot of cryptos. I have about 13 different cryptocurrencies that I'm holding right now. And I do that because there are some cryptocurrencies you'll know because everyone talks about them. They're very stable. You know they're not going anywhere. The cryptocurrencies that tend to be very small in price, these 4 that are here on Coinbase's site, it is so easy to start earning these. When you set up your account, you click start earning, you have to watch 4 videos for each of these, and you'll get $52 worth of that one, 6 of that one. You know, you guys can read. But you'll earn these cryptocurrencies for free. You don't have to pay anything. You don't have to put any money in your account. You can earn these by watching videos and answering, I think, maybe 2 to 4 questions for each of these cryptocurrencies. And so each of the cryptocurrencies, they go through step by step how they came to be, how how they're transacted, that type of thing. So on Coinbase, you can manage your portfolio of cryptocurrencies. Let's say, for instance, you have, I don't know how well you guys can see this smaller screen here, but this one is XRP. It's Ripple. Let's see if I can find it up here. But XRP is Ripple. Ripple, yeah, there it is. Ripple right now is 23 cents. Ripple is 23 cents because they literally mined all the Ripple that they could mine and put it all out on the market at the same time. They just dumped it out onto the market. So the value of it is really low because they dumped all the coins out onto the market. There's like a little over 1 billion Ripple coins out on the market. Bitcoin is staggering how they put their coin out. So is Ethereum. So you can go to this site and you can look, and there are like tons of cryptocurrencies that you can get into. What I am going to tell you, if you decide to go this route, is that the further down this list you go, the more research you would want to do into the cryptocurrencies. I usually stay and stick with the top 15. The ones that I own minus Dash are in, I'll say, the top 20. Everything that I own is in the top 20. That's because the ones that are in the top 20 are typically the most traded, the most popular, and they have the highest market cap, which means that in the marketplace, that's what everybody is trading and transacting. Bitcoin is always going to be number one. It's always going to be number one because almost every cryptocurrency below Bitcoin is based off of Bitcoin. Almost all of them. There are some of them that are not. Ethereum is not going away because governments use it as contracts. Or I shouldn't say governments, people, places use Ethereum as a contract. So you can actually write a contract and transact it with Ethereum. Ripple, you know how much Ripple's out there. Ripple isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Litecoin is also a very good one. EOS, Tezos, Stellar Lumens, which is the one at number 11. Tron. Tron is a fairly new coin. So Tron, they literally just made Tron available to trade not too long ago. Tron is right now almost 2 cents to buy Tron. And I feel that just because of the history of Tron, where they came from, how they started, Tron has the foundation to become another Ethereum or Bitcoin in the future. So I've shown you guys the white paper. I've shown you how to look at Bitcoin transactions. I've shown you guys how to actually go and purchase cryptocurrencies if that's what you would like to do. Does anybody have any questions about anything that I've gone over as far as cryptocurrencies?
Okay, I got one question.
Sure.
Okay, say you were, you know how you go from Cash App, turn it to Bitcoin, and like you transfer into your KOT.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if you put the wrong digit? Like, you know, it has to be the exact amount that the exact amount and exact address and stuff. But what if you put, like, instead of putting 0.0025, you put 0, like 3 zeros, then 25. Like, where does that money go? Like, it didn't, you know, go on the blockchain. I mean, it didn't transfer because the address is not the same. It has to be the same amount, right?
So if you type in the wrong digit,
Yeah, and Cash App, like, and it send it to the address, but that's not the same amount that was in KOT. So it's like
Okay.
$4 and something. So, but still, where did it go?
All right. So I'll use your Cash App to KOT, which is a forex broker.
Yeah.
I'll use that as an example to explain it two ways. So if it was the wrong amount of Bitcoin itself,
Yes.
the Bitcoin address is still going to recognize that you tried to put the money in, but you're going to get an error message that the amount you're trying to deposit and the amount that is the amount you're trying to receive and the amount that it thought you were going to deposit isn't the same. Now, if you're in Cash App and you're typing in the address to send it to in your broker, and that's just like if I was trying to send money to you in Bitcoin. If you're reading your Bitcoin address to me and I type in a number or a letter wrong, we both have to cross our fingers that nobody has that Bitcoin address. Because if I send that money and someone has that Bitcoin address, I then have to try to request that money back from that Bitcoin address. So the thing with the Bitcoin addresses is, I'll show you. You see how long these Bitcoin addresses are? They all don't even fit on the screen. Like some of them don't. It's easy to miss a digit or mess something up. But the way of transacting is supposed to be either you touch devices, you use an NFC or a scanning mechanism where you're either scanning the person's phone or they scan your phone, or you tap phone and the transaction happens. It's always supposed to be more of a physical thing. What you can also do is, if you're in Cash App, you can request of a Bitcoin address money. So let's say you know of a person who owes you money. There's a way you can send them your Bitcoin address, and then you know for a fact they have it exactly how it comes out of the system to then send it to you. So if you mistype a letter, it's a matter of trying to request it back. So if you're, for your example, transacting, you're going from KOT to, from Cash App to KOT or vice versa, copy and paste your Bitcoin address. And if you're in KOT trying to deposit money, it's going to give you the address under that barcode to send it to. You can either scan that barcode with your phone or hit copy and paste it into your Cash App, which is why it's easier, if you can, to do that transaction on your phone, because all you have to do is copy it, switch over to Cash App and do manually enter, and then paste it 2 times, because it'll ask you to confirm it. Once you've pasted it twice, you're good. If you like to do it on your computer, and of course, Cash App is on your phone, what you could do is have up your email address, or have up your email, log into your email and email the Bitcoin address to yourself, and then copy it if you have your email set up on your phone. But really, if it's on your computer and you have your phone, try to scan it with Cash App before doing copying and paste, because if you scan it with the scanning mechanism on Cash App, usually it'll pick it up. So hopefully that information helps. If it goes to the wrong address, you need to try to request the money back from that address, because you don't know who you sent it to. And it's just a matter of trying to request it back. If you do it through Cash App can help you do it. Most places where you have a wallet can try to help you, get that money back. to your account and then to where it really needs to go.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have any other questions? I was trying to go through the chat somewhat while I was going through the slides. I did cover a little bit about the debt ceiling when I saw it. Yeah. When we hear about the debt ceiling, it will be a forced conversation. It'll be a conversation no one's going to want to have, no one's going to want to hear, no one's going to agree on how we got into the situation where we're way over the debt ceiling. But it's going to be a conversation that has to be had, and that money has to be recouped from somewhere and at some point in time. Yes. So anytime you hear about tax cuts and new programs being started, a tax is coming up somewhere. So a tax cut at some point in time is going to be followed up with a tax, with a tax. And then any type of programs, any type of stimulus, anything that's going to be followed up at some point in time with a tax or a way for the system to get its money back. All right. So if no one has any questions or anything, I'm gonna go ahead and jump over, start talking about the news, go over the economic calendar for today, and go ahead and cover it pretty much for the rest of the week, since we won't have another meeting until Friday. And we do have these meetings every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay. So today, we started out this morning with Euro news. It wasn't really high impact news, so I didn't really pay attention to it this morning, even though I was up, just because I was really looking forward to the U.S. news. So when we talk about the U.S. news that we had come out today, you remember we were talking about, we really wanted to hear what the GDP news was. The GDP news for the United States was not good. The economy shrank more than what they had anticipated. So when we're looking at the GDP, we're talking about economic growth and economic shrinking. So the economy getting bigger, smaller. When it's red, when this percentage is red, it's not great. It means the news was bad, and the economy shrank by 4.8%. We knew that the economy was going to shrink. I know it's shrinking because it's a negative sign in front of this number, but we didn't know, or they didn't know, it was going to shrink by that much. So what does this mean? It means that things happened a lot further and faster than what they had anticipated. Because this is quarter over quarter, we're not actually looking at a lot of the effects of what's going on now. So next quarter, whenever these numbers get ready to come out, I know they're already going to be bad because the economy shrank, because we had businesses closed for so long, people out of work, and we still don't know how the economy is going to fully open up and how a lot of these companies are going to recover and recoup going forward. And to answer your question, yes. If anybody wants to be added to a list of people to be contacted about the Zoom calls as a reminder, put your information in the chat, and or I'll put my information in the chat, and you can text me, and I can make sure that you get the information as a reminder. Pending home sales. I skipped over the price index for the GDP only because it was a number that's already wrapped up in the economic numbers that they talk about. They just break it off and talk about it a little bit separately. But pending home sales, I already knew we already had talked about this. Pending home sales were going to be bad. I did not realize they were going to be that bad. Like, they were horrible. So what does this tell me? This tells me that if we do not come out of this soon and very soon, I understand we don't want a second wave like the Spanish flu of 1918, but if we do not come out of this soon, we will end up with another housing crisis on our hands. There are homes that are sitting, waiting to be bought. There are mortgages that people could be getting right now at rock bottom mortgage rates. Mortgage rates haven't been this low in a really long time. And so it's out there, but people aren't able to take advantage because they don't have jobs, or people are scared that they might lose their job. Their income is not stable, so people are not wanting to take the risk of making such a big purchase. And then not only pending homes for like individuals, these are pending home sales for people who have, because they count corporations or real estate developers who have apartment buildings that are sitting, who have townhomes, row homes, the whole developments and subdivisions that are being created. All these things are kind of in limbo. How will this start another housing crisis? You might ask, is that remember, the housing crisis started in 2007 because there was a big supply of homes on the market and not enough demand. That was how 2008 got started. People couldn't pay their mortgages. So now we have a system in place for mortgage forbearance, but the banks still need money. People aren't able to pay their mortgages, but the banks still need that money because a loan was taken out on credit where they had to make money out of nowhere to help that person get the loan to get a house. Now the bank's sitting in debt. They need that money and people aren't working. So that's why the government is now having to print so much money. We're essentially printing money right now to keep the banking system afloat. We say all these other businesses, we say all these other things, but we're keeping the banking system afloat because every transaction happens through or to a bank. So we're trying to make sure we don't end up with another housing crisis, but if people aren't able to pay rent even for apartments for a certain period of time, these institutions are going to suffer and we're going to end up back in the same place. All right. So the highlight of my day was Jerome Powell talking. I always enjoy news like this, especially whenever we're trading, because trading the US dollar, anything based off of the US dollar, whether it's gold or oil, whatever the case may be, is fun because the markets are really volatile. They're moving a lot. So if you guys are interested and if you just want to know more about the Federal Reserve, who they are, what they do, they have a whole website with like tabs and tabs of information. Is the federalreserve.gov. You can literally go over and look at all this economic data. If you click on data, there are so many different things you can look up. You can look up consumer credit. You can look up mortgage debt outstanding, which we should look at. You can look up any type of data you want to. When they have jobs numbers that come out, they're not on this particular page, but they have links to the Department of Labor statistics where you can see how many men, how many women, how many Caucasians, how many African Americans, how many Asians, how many students, how many elderly. Like you can look up so many different demographics looking on these sites and be able to really see what's going on in not only the world or like our country, but our state. You can look at it by county. Like the information's there, you just have to know how to get it. So if you want to look at today's statement that came out from the Feds, go to news and events and then come down to press releases. Speeches, if there's like a speech being given somewhere, it'll be under speeches, but everything they do for this time of the month when they do interest rate changes, it's always under press releases, and it's always going to be the very first one if you do it the day of. I've already clicked on it, and here it is. So this one was so short, they didn't have to make a PDF for it this time. Normally, if you click on it, it's a it'll give you a link, and you can click on it, and it'll bring up a whole PDF file. But essentially, what Jerome Powell said is that their target is to keep the interest rates low, as close to 0% as possible without going negative. They talked about how much the coronavirus has had an impact on our economy, has weakened oil prices. And so what they're trying to do right now is manage inflation. They're trying to manage inflation. They're trying to manage their mandate for employment, which is hard because the states are closed. So right now they have no control over that. And just controlling overall labor and market conditions in any way that they can. And what that means is the last actions that they took, they're going to continue to do them. If you don't know what I mean by the last actions that they took, our Fed used to run by a rule book. They used to say, well, we're only going to buy back this many treasuries, this many bonds. We're only going to do this much. We're only going to give out this amount of money in overnight spending and loans. But they threw the whole book out the window. Anything that needs to be done to make sure that our economy is stable will be done, are the words of Jerome Powell whenever those actions were taken. So if it means that our Fed, has to continue to print money in order to help keep the economy afloat, then that's what will be done. But essentially, that's where we are. Remember earlier when I told you guys about voting, all the people who are in the chair, are in the Fed, and sit on the board, they're all down here. They all voted. They all voted for this policy together, which is rare. Typically, there's like one or two that don't agree, but they all agreed this time. So, I guess that's great. I guess that's great because normally it's usually one, but it's dire times when they all agree because, at this point, they've already agreed to do everything and anything. So, this page right here, I only pulled it up because it talks about monetary policy implementation. It talks about the amount of stimulus that they're going to be putting into the economy. So like stimulating the economy to the tune of like $30 billion a day between our banks and other governments. Rollovers for treasuries. So if you guys don't know how to buy treasuries, U.S. treasuries, there's an actual site you can go to and you can buy U.S. treasuries. They have an auction. They have a certain time period where interest rates are valid and when you can actually buy them. They've kind of thrown that out the window. But hey, you can still buy them. The government's buying them right now to help keep the economy afloat. I just don't know what kind of rate you're going to get short-term rates might not be all that great. Long-term, you might get a good deal. All right, and then this is what I was pulling up for you guys, mortgage debt outstanding. So you can actually go through, there's a table. I'm not going to try to open it because I don't want the Zoom call to lag for you guys, but you can actually look, see how much debt is outstanding for different types of mortgages, whether it's a farm, you know, the size family home, what type of home, how much institutions are holding. So yeah, anything you really want to know, the Fed has it laid out on their site. So that's kind of what Jerome Powell's press conference was about. It wasn't anything just too spectacular or away from the norm. We kind of already knew the Fed had thrown the kitchen sink and then some at this problem that we're having because of the coronavirus with the environment. I mean, with the environment, but also with the economy. I'll talk about the environment in a minute. So, yeah, at the end of the day, like all of this with the coronavirus, if it's not over with soon, like I honestly don't know how people, and I also don't know how the economies are going to shift away from this. And by economies, I mean every country on this planet, how they're going to shift and really be able to jumpstart from this. So there's China news, China, Korea, and I'll think of the country in a second. But they're all Asian countries. Their manufacturing numbers are amazing. They have great economic numbers coming out. So at the beginning of the year, China didn't have good economic numbers because of the trade war with the United States. We were crushing their economy. And now they haven't had a bad number since the coronavirus has started, partly because they haven't shut down their economy. They put out in the news that, you know, they were kind of restricting movement or whatever, but their manufacturing never stopped. Never stopped. So whenever you look at like the Korean stock market and the Korean markets and the Korean numbers for manufacturing, amazing. Like the best numbers they've had in the last few quarters. China hasn't missed a beat. We're suffering. They're not suffering by any means. So to really like go ahead and sum this up, scan through for the rest of the week. We have economic news coming out for Europe. They're going to be talking about their refinancing rate. Europe, as we know, is in a very, very dire situation when it comes to the economies of about 8 of their countries because they're on the verge of bankruptcy. They were on the verge of bankruptcy before the coronavirus. So you know the coronavirus is just making it worse. So I highly doubt that these interest rates are going to go negative for Europe. Going negative will not make them a safe haven or a place where people will want to put their money to hold value. So it does them no good. They will talk about the coronavirus, pretty similar to what Jerome Powell did today, and go over you know, how the coronavirus is affecting them and what they plan to do. Pretty much keep interest rates close to zero, make sure they're managing the situation and opening up the books to whatever the European Central Bank needs to do to manage this situation. So there's a ECB press conference tomorrow. Christine Lagarde will be speaking. Anytime she speaks, you guys know she answers every question the media asks her. She's pretty much like, she shrugs her shoulders. She's very open book. So if there's anything you ever wanted to know about the European economy, watch her at 8:30 in the morning. If you miss it, it's taped. So you can go to their website and watch it if you miss it and just see what she has to say, because the coronavirus is not just affecting us, it's affecting other countries and their currencies. And this is going to be a play for us when this is all said and done with, because if you're watching how the US dollar is moving right now and everything that we have done, and you watch what other countries are doing, currency trades can be planned off of that. So that's why these things are important to us on this call. Also tomorrow morning at 8:30, unemployment claims news comes out. So if you watch Bloomberg, CNBC, Fox News, what they're going to do at 8:30 in the morning is have half of the screen covering Christine Lagarde. The other half of the screen is going to be showing U.S. unemployment numbers. When the number comes out, they're going to full screen to talk about the U.S. and then kind of clip in and out of Christine Lagarde speaking. But at some point, they'll show her speaking. But that's how that'll pretty much go in the morning. Unemployment claims are super duper important to us. So you can go to North Carolina's des.nc.gov and look at the unemployment numbers for North Carolina. Let's see. I'll do it in a second. Once I cover this. So you guys can see the numbers from North Carolina. You guys can actually see like who filed for unemployment, or not who, but like how many people have applied so far, how much money has gone out in stimulus, how much unemployment money itself has gone out. And then the Department of Labor Statistics will actually put out demographic information. So the Department of Labor Statistics, if you ever want a source for any of the information I'm talking about, you just come to forexfactory.com where this calendar is and just click on the link for source. It'll take you straight to that department's website and you can click and find the reports. They will actually tell us tomorrow when this report comes out how many African Americans, how many Caucasians, how many young people, how many people on the East Coast, West Coast, what job sectors are being affected. Like anything you want to know about unemployment, who, what, when, where, why, how, it's going to show you. The why we all know, how we all know. It's going to answer all those other little questions in between and really tell us. What am I expecting for unemployment claims? I'm expecting unemployment claims to stabilize somewhat because there haven't been just a whole lot of mass layoffs that we've heard about. The travel industry has pretty much done everything it's going to do. Even though the airlines are taking a bailout now, they've already told us they're going to wait and do a lot of their firing and laying off in the fall, in September. So I already expect this number to go up in September. But for right now, they're trying to get a lot of people to go back to work. So if you were with me a few Zoom calls ago, we talked about how if the states reopen and your job was dependent, if your job said stay at home or we don't need you because the state was closed or because of you being essential versus non-essential, whatever the case may be, when the states reopen and they say it's time for people to go back to work, if a person says, I don't feel comfortable going back to work right now, you can no longer claim unemployment because you're refusing to go back to work. Even though for you it's a very valid reason for you wanting to stay at home, to the government and to your state, you're saying, I don't want to go back to work because I don't want to go back to work because I don't feel safe. But they just hear you say, I don't want to go back to work. And that's one of the questions you have to answer is, are you available for work? And something similar to like, have you refused work? If you say yes, you refused work, you're not getting paid. You're unemployment. So it's better off for you to go to work if you want the money. So a lot of states have reopened because of this fact. A lot of people were upset with Georgia because Georgia reopened. A lot of people, and I can understand the reasons why. A lot of people, were talking about race. A lot of people were just talking about the demographic makeup of just Georgia, period. But if you look at it from the financial side, Georgia has no more money to give out for unemployment. And the governor said whenever he got ready to get put into office, that he was going to secure the financial future for people who live in Georgia, and he was not going to add to the debt. If he kept the state closed, that would mean going into debt to pay unemployment claims. And I'm going to show you the numbers for North Carolina, so then you can kind of get a number in mind for how much debt Georgia would be going into. He doesn't want to go into debt over unemployment, even if it means keeping your citizens safe. It's like, go into debt, have people go back to work, and get our economy restarted. And we see the option that was chosen. So the states that are reopening, look at their financials. You can go to their Department of like Employment Services or labor statistics and see how much money they've been given or how much money they have to spend. You can look in the state's budget. Every state publishes their budget. Look at it. See how much money they will have allotted for circumstances of unemployment, and then look at how much money they've spent in unemployment. If those numbers are same or negative or they're in a deficit, they're reopening. A lot of states have gotten to the point where they don't have a choice but to reopen or go into debt. And if you go into debt, a program is going to have to get cut to make up for that money. So instead of telling people, I'm cutting your SNAP services, I'm cutting the highway budget, so potholes are going to remain, I'm cutting whatever state services to make up for that unemployment debt, people are going to be upset. Nobody in the state position wants to say that. Why? Because 2020 is a year where everybody's seat is up for grabs. Every few years or so in the election cycle, everybody's seat goes up for grabs. So everybody is trying to secure a seat at the table. They're going to do whatever it takes to secure their seat at the table. So it's a lot of things that go into the decisions that are being made right now. And then for Friday, the biggest thing to know and remember is that we have manufacturing news come out for the United States. I don't expect it to be great. However, as I said last week, since our administration has a car company making ventilators, has a cell phone company making masks, every huge industry in the United States is still running. They haven't completely stopped. They're just making things outside of their normal product. I don't expect this number to just be astronomically bad. I mean, I still expect it to be bad, but it might actually be green, because I feel like they made this number low on purpose so that if this number is good, they can talk about how much better the economy is doing and force more states to reopen because the economy is doing better. Or Trump could say, based off that number, that restrictions are going to be lifted. So that's that. If you guys plan to tune in for the newer people on the call, again, I appreciate you guys. If you plan to tune in for other Zoom calls, next week the unemployment numbers come out. The unemployment rate number comes out. The employment change number comes out, and then also a number for earnings come out. So we'll be talking a lot about employment, demographic, earnings, all that kind of stuff next Friday, because the number always, for the most part, comes out on the first Friday of every month. But given that there are bank holidays this Friday, the number is not coming out. So anyway, that's that. Does anybody have any questions? I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for 1 second. But if anybody has any questions, go ahead and ask, or you can type them in the chat.
I have no questions. Good stuff, Carmen. Especially that crypto presentation.
No problem. All right. I'm just waiting for this page to come up. But anyway, the only thing it was, I was just going to show you those. Oh, here it is. The North Carolina numbers for you guys to see. So essentially what happens with all of these numbers and stuff that come out, they compile all this information, they put it together for us to see, and then eventually they'll use this information whenever it's time for budgeting. They'll use this information to be able to justify being able to ask for more money. For North Carolina, it helps tremendously. But then at the same time, you have to think, if you were a person in this situation, you know, how much of your information are you really wanting to be kept and tracked along the way?
Are you sharing your screen right now?
No, I'm not. I'm waiting for this page to still come up.
Oh, okay. I didn't see anything, so I was just wondering. Sorry. No problem.
Oh, no, it's okay. I appreciate you asking, because sometimes I start talking and you guys aren't able to see my screen. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll show it to you guys at the end, because the page that's coming up is not the page that would normally come up on their site. So I'm not going to hold you guys up any longer trying to wait for it. But as the Zoom call goes on, if you guys have any questions, if you need anything, just you can drop it in the chat and I'll be able to answer it. But Mr. Levels, you can go ahead and start with going over the charts and some trades and stuff that we've taken this week.
Cool beans. Appreciate that, Corman. Great job. All right, cool beans. I'm gonna run through this, being that we already have our trades that we're looking at for the week. As always, we start with the dollar index, because the dollar index gives us an overall idea of what the currencies that we like to trade, the direction that the currencies that we like to trade are headed in. Being that we mostly trade USD pairs, being GBP USD, Euro USD, EZD USD, we can look at the dollar and get an overall idea on what those currencies are headed, what direction those currencies are headed in, because they're connected to the dollar. So looking at the dollar, we are expecting the dollar to give us some bearish momentum to the downside, come back and retest this structure that we have inside right here. that structure that I just circled, this red structure that you see right here is this structure that I have circled. And so this is where we're expecting the price of the dollar to come back down to. So we're expecting the dollar to come back down to about $98.22 by the end of the week. We've already started to see somewhat of a bearish movement with this downward candle here. Price came back and retested this structure. It couldn't break back above this price. And so that's just confirmation that the dollar is going to continue to sell off and be bearish. And so that's the move that we're looking for from the dollar for the rest of this week. With that being said, if we move on to GBP USD, we know that if the dollar is being bearish and moving in a downward direction, then we expect GBP USD to be bullish and move in an upward direction. And so, as we can see, we already can see somewhat of a bullish move from GBP USD. And as we can see, GBP USD hasn't been able to come back down and break this structure or even break below this structure. And so that's added confirmation that GBP USD is going to continue to buy to the upside. I am looking for GBP USD to eventually come up and capture this liquidity over here, this dollar sign that you see right here. That's what we call liquidity, money in the market that the market needs to come back and capture. And so for everybody that was on the Zoom call Monday and are in GBP USD buys, you should be in some profits, should be in some good profits, and you should have already moved your stop loss into either to break even or into profit. That way you can secure the bag, secure your profits, and just let this trade run until it hit our last take profit, which is around 1.32, 35, 37, somewhere up in there. So this trade is looking pretty good for us this week. Moving on to Euro USD, same thing. We know if we're expecting the dollar to move in a downward direction to be bearish, then we're expecting Euro USD to move in the opposite direction. So we're expecting Euro USD to be bullish. We're expecting Euro USD to come up and capture this liquidity around 1.1.
Hey, spread that black on. Wait, hold on, back on. Spread that black.
You talking to me, sis?
Now you really.
Okay. So yeah, so we're expecting Euro USD to come up and capture this liquidity over here. Everybody that's in EU buys should be in good profit or should already have took profit, but you should have definitely already moved your stop loss to break even or into profit, and you can let this run for a risk-free trade. So this should GBP USD or Euro USD should definitely not be a losing trade for anybody who took this trade Monday. If you're in this trade, it shouldn't be a losing trade because your stop loss should be into should be at break even or in profit. And looking at NZD USD, gonna be the same thing. We know that if we're expecting the dollar to move down, then we're expecting NZD USD to move up. I was expecting NZD USD to come down, feed into this last bearish candle before the upward move. We didn't quite get the move all the way down to feed into this last bearish candle. Price just kind of went ahead and took off. So it doesn't happen cookie cutter clean all the time. Sometimes you might just have to enter by market, go ahead and jump in, and or if you just want to be on the more conservative side, you set your buy limit. If your buy limit doesn't get triggered, then it just doesn't get triggered. But if you did happen to go ahead and enter by market, make a market execution, you're in great profit for NZD USD. Should be up about 130 something pips. Same thing with NZD JPY. NZD JPY, I was expecting it to come back down and feed into this last down candle before the upward move, but as you can see, if you had set your buy limit there, it wouldn't have got triggered. But if you did a market execution, then you would be up 100 something pips right now. So all trades for this week, whether you set a buy limit and you didn't get triggered, or you went ahead and just did a market execution, all trades this week was either didn't get the NZD pairs didn't get triggered, or if you just went ahead and jumped in and did a market execution, you're in great profits right now. Euro USD and GBP USD, you should be in good profit, and none of these trades should be losing trades for us this week. Moving on to Bitcoin. We've been riding Bitcoin for a while, so I was expecting Bitcoin to come back down and fill in this insufficient price action right here. We test this level and shoot up, but as you can see, originally we did have Bitcoin breaking our trend and our price level right here, and retesting and shooting up, and so that's what happened. I was more expecting Bitcoin to come down and fill in this insufficiency, just being conservative and being on the safe side. People was in profits up here around this 75, 7,600 price level,
no.
and didn't want to experience this drawdown right here. You could have either took your profit and waited to re-enter right here, or you could have just held and got this ride up. But being that most of the people that trade with me are experienced, once you started seeing Bitcoin push up and break these equal highs right here, then you should have known to go ahead in the market for the buy. And even if you jumped in the market after the equal highs right here was broke, you still be up about 1,000 pips right now. So Bitcoin paid out today, and it's been paying out ever since we got in down here like 4,000, 5,000 pips. So we're gonna continue to Bitcoin. We're gonna continue to ride, and we're gonna continue to get this money off Bitcoin. And then looking at gold. Gold didn't give me my drop down either. Didn't nothing want to come back and retest my zones this week. They just went ahead and took off. But gold hasn't really taken off yet, and it's as you can see, it came back up fed into this last up candle before the downward move, and so I am expecting gold may still come back down and retest this 1680 level, or it could it look like it want to push now, look like it's pushing now, or it could just bust through and come up and capture this liquidity. Being that we have all these wicks right here, I'm thinking that gold is going to come back down and test this 1680 level, and then give us our push to the upside to come over here and capture this liquidity and possibly go ahead and shoot on up to 1800. So that's where we at for the week. All trades looking great. All trades looking good. Looking at all paid out today. All just it's still up to the upside. We've been in all since I've been in all since like the $5 price level, and all is on KOT. All is at like, I think it's at like $9 or $11 or something. This is the futures price. So futures price is at $16.53 right now.
It's
So
at $12.66.
on KOT.
Yes.
Yeah, so on KOT, all is at $12. So we've been in all since all was at like $5 and some change. So we're just riding all, and all look like it's probably gonna go ahead and push up at least to $20. They was talking about all today on Bloomberg, and a lot of Bloomberg experts were saying that they had all at least pumping up to $20 before we see a move back to the downside, and all may even drop back down into the negatives. And as you can see, we have this 200-day moving average right here at my structure. So this orange line you see, that's the 200-day moving average. So I could very well see all playing off using that moving average as a resistance along with this structure right here, and then probably coming back down to feeling this insufficient price action, and then shooting to the moon once the economy and everything opens back up. So that's what we looking like. That's where we at for trade ideas and trade setups for this week. Anybody got any questions about any of that?
I do. So this will not so much about the trade. It's just not about any of the trades that you went over. Just how would I get into a Bitcoin trade from KOT?
The same way you would place any other trade. Are you familiar with placing trades?
Only from my phone, but not with like KOT. So do I need to like try to download the app or?
First, you would have to open a KOT account.
Done.
And then you would have to connect it to your MT4 account.
Done.
Have you already funded the account?
Done.
So only thing you would have to do is add Bitcoin as one of the currencies that you would like to trade on your MetaTrader 4, and then just trade it like you would trade any other pair.
Okay.
So
That added with that plus sign at the top right.
yeah, that's what
Thank you.
yeah, cool beans.
I have a quick question. We're holding oil and Bitcoin trades, and seeing as how Bitcoin has already reached our 8,200 level, do you suggest holding Bitcoin? Like I closed out about 3 of them, and I have 3 more running. So with Bitcoin and oil, would you close most of them out and take most of your profit out and see what it's gonna do?
Oh, well, as far as me, I'm hedging. So if I see Bitcoin or oil comes to a structure like Bitcoin is at right now, Bitcoin is at this structure right here.
Mm-hmm.
If Bitcoin starts to show me a strong bearish candle push to the downside, then I'm just gonna hedge it. I'm just gonna sell it until it comes back down to another structure and gives me an indication that it's ready to push back up to the upside. And then I close out those sales that I hedge, and then I continue to let my buys run.
Cool.
So Tamara, one thing I will say to you, from the oil standpoint, anybody else that's holding oil, is that spreads. So today was spread day. Um, so every broker has a day where they do like swap fees and all that kind of stuff. So the swap fee for oil is like 24.8 pips. So for every 0.01 lot size you have open, it's a $2.48 swap fee for holding it. So just be careful if you're holding a trade that's pretty close to price, because you don't want swap fees to eat up your profit. And you can just see what the swap fee is by tapping the trade that you have open and just looking like where it would show you your stop loss or your take profit. Just look to see what your swap fee is. Another thing is, I put it in the group chat earlier today, but just a reminder, oil, the structure level on KOT for oil is at 1268, or 1267, I'm sorry. Price is at 1265 right now, and we have about 23 minutes left in the hour. And price has already come up and tapped that area. Say it's trying for a third time now. What I will say is that if we don't get a real strong move towards, or a really strong move above 1267 on KOT and a close above that area, you can either secure partial profits, move your stop loss in profit, or close out the trade. Like, those are your options. At some point in time, some of the trades I have open, I probably will just close them to take some profit, and that's just me, because I just, want to go ahead and get rid of some of those open trades. But this level, as you guys know, is a really important level because oil has already tried twice, and I think even more than twice to break. Actually, this is the 6th time that oil is trying to break through this level, and it can't do it. So, every time a price touches a particular level, it gets weaker and weaker. So it could be that this hour or next hour price goes up and closes above 1267, but it has to be a very strong move. If it's just 1275, that's not a strong move. You need a really strong move above that price and a close above that price to think about getting into more buys, because you don't want to get trapped in a buy if price decides to come back down and retest. And it does have some levels of insufficient price action to the downside to fill in. So just remember that. If you're looking at oil, prices at 1267 right now. 1277. Sorry, I can't even read the number. It's at 1277 right now. If you're wanting to know what price is. Also, Mr. Parsons had mentioned this earlier, but I'll talk about it so briefly. It's the 29th of April. The new contract for oil just opened up last week. We still have 3 more weeks to go on this contract for oil before the next one starts on the 22nd of May. So with that being said, there's still time and room for oil prices to potentially go negative again if states remain closed, people don't travel, whatever the case may be. So with any trades that I'm taking right now with oil, I'm always trying to be mindful of how many buys that I have open, because if I have to hedge and put in sales as well, you know, we talked about margin on the last call. You just want to make sure that you have the money in your account to be able to do that, or say, well, I'm only going to have these trades open, and if price reverses, I'm either going to close these out and open sales, or I'm going to keep these open and have sales open and kind of balance out my margin so that my account doesn't go super negative. Whatever you decide to do, just make sure you do what's best for you, your account, and whatever you're able to manage. But
And so the swap fees go up after 5 p.m., right?
yes, so they assess the swap fee at 5 p.m., right when the market pauses for oil for that hour. And that's with any pair. It's just anything you hold after 5 o'clock, you get charged a swap fee for it. That's with any pair.
Cool, thanks.
You're welcome. And I'm done, Mr. Levels. I just wanted to add that really quick.
Cool beans. Well, I would like to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. For everybody that's new on the call, these calls are Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, as Carmen said before, at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. With that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and bring the call to an end for the night. As always, let your loved ones know you love them while they still here. And everybody have a great night and be safe out there. Peace and love.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Cool beans.